welcome back. My name is Ghoul, and you're watching Top 10 Facts about World War II that aren't true. So hit those lights, lay back, and enjoy.
France rolled over to Germany in 1940 without resisting because the French are cowards. The fact that Germany did in 6 weeks during World War II what they couldn't do in 4 years in World War I is grossly oversimplified. While it's true that France surrendered quickly to Germany, French soldiers fought hard in the Battle of France, eradicating over 150,000 people and destroying over 800 German tanks. The French army was let down by indecisive leadership, poor tactics, bad logistics, and commanders trying to fight a defensive conflict and avoid the high casualties of World War I. Germany only invaded the Soviet Union on June 22, 1941, because the Soviets were about to invade Germany. This is more of a conspiracy theory than a myth, held by a few French scholars of the conflict on the Eastern Front. It originates with a Soviet intelligence officer, Viktor Suvorov, who defected to the UK in the late 80s. His thesis was that Joseph Stalin had introduced conscription and lowered the minimum wage of the Red Army to gain manpower, while ordering maps of Germany issued to soldiers in the field. Most historians dismiss Suvorov's theories, though they agree that Stalin would have eventually ordered an invasion on Germany, but not for several years, as the Red Army was modernizing and reorganizing. The myth has also been jumped on by white supremacists as a sign that Hitler only targeted Russia to protect his country from communist aggression. This theory is not supported by historical evidence. Adolf Hitler was elected leader of the National Socialist German Workers' Party by a margin of only 1 vote, showing the importance of every single vote. This oft-repeated urban legend isn't even close to true. He actually won the leadership of the party by a huge margin, 553 to 1 to be exact, when elected in 1923. It is true that the National Socialist German Workers' Party didn't win a majority of seats in the 1933 German election, the last one held before Germany became a one-party state, but this had no real impact on the scope of Nazi power. As a last-ditch effort to prevent Germany from invading England, the Royal Navy had developed a way of setting the English Channel itself on fire. While the British Petroleum Warfare Department was indeed working on a way to cover the English Channel with oil that could be set alight, a story started going around that they'd already figured out how to do it. British intelligence goosed around the rumor and got it so far that many believed Germany had already attempted to invade England, with disastrous results brought on by the burning water. However, no invasion would ever take place, as the plan to invade England was scrapped due to massive logistical problems and the lack of ships appropriate for an ambitious attack. Eating carrots and other vegetables rich in vitamin A helps you see better at night. This is a myth created by a British Ministry of Information as a way to boost morale and make war-weary citizens feel like they could help the efforts by growing carrots that could, in turn, be sent to fighter pilots fighting the Germans. They also wanted children to feel like eating vegetables was better than eating sweets, which were strictly rationed. Somehow it became common knowledge that eating carrots helped your night vision, but there's really no science behind the claim. Polish horse cavalry, in a shock display of foolish bravery, charged German tanks with their lances, dying in the process. This is one of the most repeated urban legends of the conflict, and it is completely incorrect. The real charge at Krojanty was a Polish cavalry charge, but against infantry that caught in the open. And it worked, with Polish lancers breaking up German strike and sending panic through their lines. It was only after a German counterattack with armored cars and journalists were shown the bodies of fallen Polish soldiers and horses and told they charged tanks. But the charge against tanks was a German propaganda swallowed by Allied riders. A German U-boat U-1206 sank when the experimental toilet it was carrying overflowed, causing a flood that couldn't be stopped. This is actually true, at least up to a point. U-1206 was a new boat carrying a new form of high-pressure toilet that could be used at lower depths than older waste management systems. The boat's captain had to use the head one day while out on patrol and accidentally opened a valve to the outside, causing water to flood in. The water contacted the ship's batteries and a deadly chlorine gas quickly formed. In order to vent the gas, the captain ordered the boat to surface, which it did right in front of the Scottish coastline. It was targeted and badly damaged, with the captain ordering its scuttling. 4 men passed in a shootout, which took place just 3 weeks before the conflict ended. Hitler's feared SS were a uniquely German organization dedicated to the ideals of Aryan manhood and Germanic pride. They were, for a while, but by the end of World War II, the SS would take almost anyone it could get their hands on. The feared SS began its life in 1924 as Hitler's personal protective organization, a group of brutal paramilitary thugs beating people up for disrupting their meetings in Munich. A few years later, Heinrich Himmler took over the SS and transformed it into an elite military force steeped in Germanic ideology, racial theory, and binding loyalty to the Führer. As such, SS units made for fanatical soldiers and supplicant killers, doing anything they were ordered to do to advance the aims of the Aryan master race, including committing genocide. But even as early as 1940, the SS began using foreign soldiers to bulk out its ranks. First, the Special Viking Division was authorized, made up of anti-communist fanatics from Scandinavia, the Lower Countries, and Estonia. Then, in 1942, saw the creation of separate SS divisions made of Croats, Ukrainians, Estonians, and Latvians. There were also Spanish, French, East Indians, Romanian, and Russian units in the SS, with an attempt even made at the British Free Corps Division of English Volunteers, which was a miserable failure. Ultimately, fully 60% of soldiers wearing the SS runes were not German, and French SS soldiers were among the last defenders of Berlin, fighting to the death to avoid capture by the Russians. The Japanese troops were gifted jungle fighters, and therefore Western troops had no chance against them, particularly in the invasion of the Malay Peninsula, when Japanese troops captured the fortress city of Singapore with ease. Japan is not known to have more jungles than Western countries. Japanese troops managed to capture the fortress city of Singapore because the British defenders were ill prepared. Japanese troops did not begin training in jungle warfare until December of 1940, and although they were vastly outnumbered by the 88,600 British soldiers protecting the Malay Peninsula, they took the enemy lightly, according to General Tomoyuki Yamashita, and therefore beat all odds and succeeded against the British. For Western troops, this defeat was explained by the assumption that they were up against skilled jungle fighters. Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin ordered the creation of ape-human hybrid soldiers to fight the Nazis. Urban legends persist that the Supreme Soviet wanted to genetically engineer a race of half-man, half-ape hybrid soldiers that wouldn't feel pain or fear, would be mindlessly obedient, and could be created in infinite numbers in the laboratory. But of course, this is not true. There was a Russian biologist named Ilya Ivanovich Ivanov who had achieved great acclaim for his work inseminating horses and creating various animal hybrids. After crossing different animals, birds, rodents, and insects, Ivanov pondered tampering in God's domain, creating a hybrid of a human and an ape. By 1926, he had received a small grant from the Soviet government to set up a lab in Africa and start working. First, he tried to impregnate chimps with human sperm. When this failed, he stooped to truly horrific levels, planning to inseminate human women with chimp sperm. Ivanov's scheme was stopped by the local government, and Ivanov went back to Russia with 20 apes, most of which perished en route. By 1930, the entire idea fell out of favor as the political climate shifted and Stalin had embraced another view of selective breeding. Ivanov was exiled in a purge of Soviet scientists and passed just a few years later. Stalin probably didn't even know about Ivanov's work, and the idea of Stalin creating super monkey soldiers to fight Hitler didn't emerge until some dubious infotainment pieces in the mid-2000s.